Hi, this is Nicholas Bell with IONCINEMA, here to review Honeydew, the directorial debut of Devereux Milburn, which will be released April 13th, 2021, courtesy of Dark Star Pictures and Bloody Disgusting. It was selected as part of the 2020 Tribeca Film Festival, which was, of course, compromised by the COVID-19 pandemic. Notably, it is also the debut of Sawyer Spielberg, son of Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw. Spielberg, alongside Malin Barr, play Sam and Riley, a couple that are kind of experiencing some tension. It was lensed by Dan Kennedy, who gives us, who actually previously directed a film called Loud Places in 2017. But it starts out on kind of an interesting footing with a series of images and moments that are accentuating textures and sounds, which are both very important to the fabric of the film. But we jump into the meat of it with Sam and Riley. He is an aspiring actor who's languishing as a waiter, and she is pursuing a doctorate in botany, and they are going away for the weekend to study, for her sake, this wheat fungus that has basically decimated some Midwestern community. We're introduced to this subject through a vintage style video she's watching in her phone about sortico, which is a form of fungus that causes ergotism or ergot poisoning, which historically there are a lot of fascinating instances about how ergot poisoning from wheat might have caused certain notable, notorious historical events, which I recommend looking up instances of that. Anyhow, they plant themselves in a field. There's a discussion that kind of reflects their state of mind, and they're interrupted in their tent by a man named Euless, played by Stephen D'Ambrose, who tells them, "This is my property, I'll come back in a couple hours, please leave." There's nowhere for them to go. They get in the car, it won't start, so they start trekking off through the woods and find shelter from the storm, if you will, in a very large home out in the middle of nowhere. When they knock on the door, and is answered by Karen, played by Barbara Kingsley, who's in David Lynch's The Straight Story. It's immediately apparent that something off about Karen, and the whole vibe of the house is probably someplace they should turn away from immediately. However, Karen says that they can come wait inside. There's no cell phone service. AAA will take forever, but she knows a neighbor named Pete that she'll call who can come jumpstart their car. Pete never shows up. Instead, Karen offers to feed them. And then we get into the dietary restrictions of Riley, who's a vegan, and her husband, or her boyfriend, who has very high cholesterol levels, necessitating that he can't eat red meat and maybe fish here and there, chicken once a month. And here Karen is cooking up these juicy red steaks. Also in the kitchen is her son, Goonie, played by Jamie Bradley, who seems to have some kind of cognitive delay, to say the least, and has a bandaged head and watches an old TV very closely that's playing either Betty Boop or Popeye cartoons while he sucks on lemons and drinks milk through an interesting straw contraption. Eventually these subtexts unite, where of course the sortico is in whatever Karen is making. The couple ends up experiencing hallucinations and then finds themselves as a potential food for Karen and some other surprising people that she's affiliated with, of course. Initially, I think that Honeydew starts off on a very promising note. The sound design and soundtrack are very creepy and effective. Initially, this felt like David Lynch doing Hansel and Gretel, so I was pleased to learn that Kingsley is a Lynch alum. It definitely fits. She's got this weirdo Carol Kane vibe that I quite liked. Eventually things slow down quite a bit, where they probably should have picked up, and the third act will remind you of a variety of notable films, from the obvious like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes, to some smaller touches, like there's a Lena Dunham character that is very boxing Helena to me, and also Ted Post's cult classic The Baby, which if you haven't seen it, I love it, from 1973, before he did Magnum force, I believe. Anyhow, there's a lot here, especially for a first film that is quite entertaining. I very much look forward to what Devereux Milburn will come up with next. Again, there are some things that do seem a little derivative, but overall, it's entertaining, and if you like weirdo genre art house films, I definitely say Honeydew should be right up your alley. Overall, I would give it 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.